Patient has a fractured fibula. Given him mild sedative, so he can be able to go on tomorrow.
Daddy's gonna be so excited.
All good.
That killed him.
I have no idea what you're talking about. No? You guys, check it out. 452. Kidding. Isn't that great? It's just getting high for life. Yeah.
How do I mute everybody? Anybody remember? Participants. There we go. You the man. Sorry you guys out there can't talk, but somebody wasn't interested in listening, so they wanted to talk. Oh, well. All right, quiz time. So you guys out there will get this next time. And we'll let these guys take it now. I don't think you need to. Well, all right, everybody pass them into the center and then pass them up and we'll keep moving. So we've got 2 goals in class today, and I apologize, I've got to wear this thing, but as you know, I do have to wear this thing from now on. To my chagrin and probably yours, I will try to speak louder and hopefully you guys can hear me, especially you guys back there. So today I'm going to do 2 things. First, we're going to talk about, remember mask up here. 2 things. We're going to talk about the role of the product manager regarding the company and the product. And then we're going to look at product manager and creativity. Usually I try to do 1 thing, but I'm going to try to do 2 today. Okay, so I'm going to suggest that the product manager, one person in marketing who is going to run the product for the company. And we'll talk more about that person next time. But as Peter Drucker says, real marketing says that marketing is the whole firm taken from the customer's point of view. So I market the product, but if I'm not selling it right, or if the orders are getting messed up, if it's not provisioned correctly, if the bill isn't what we tell people it's going to be, we've got problems. So that the product manager, the marketing people, have to be aware of what's going on everywhere in the company. Because if the customer doesn't understand the bill, the customer's going to be mad. And the customer's going to call customer service. And then the customer service person has to explain the bill to them. And we've all had bills where we don't know what it means, and we want to know what it means. And that makes the customer mad. And so we need everything in the company to focus on the customer. The customer is king. And what the customer wants and needs, we have to provide, whatever it takes. So if I'm marketing and I don't know what the bill has. I don't get the product. Somebody else buys the product and the bill's messed up. That's going to affect everything in the chain and it's going to ruin the customer experience. So some key issues for good products. Number one, you need to provide the customer what the customer wants and needs. So what does a customer want in an iPhone? A battery that lasts a whole day or more, and a screen that doesn't break. And what are the two things that Apple didn't provide to us? Right? Provide what your customer wants and needs. Second, when you're communicating to the customer, emphasize solutions and benefits more than features. Now, let me clarify that. People like us, consumers, who are buying consumer goods, iPhones and dishwashing liquid, talk to them about benefits. What does it do for me? What does it give me? What benefit does it provide? So don't tell me a new tennis shoe uses chloroformylagmacaine in the base of the shoe. No, tell me that I'm going to have a smoother run and it's going to be better for my knees. That I'm willing to buy. I don't care about some feature, some chemical you're using. I care about the benefit. That's the consumers. But businesses are not that way. For a business, you emphasize solutions. So a business has business problems, and they have to solve their business problems. So when I communicate to a business, I say, let me help you solve your problems. So we've got this COVID thing going around, right? And we've got this spray and this towel thing dispenser over here. How do you think we suddenly came to put that towel dispenser and the spray in every customer? Sales company, a salesperson, came to AU operations and says, hey, you've got to get things clean in your rooms, right? I said, yes. Here's an efficient way to do it. And they provide those two things. So they say, here's a solution to the problem you have, right? I don't care about the features. I care how it's going to solve my problems, right? Third, leave the customer wanting more. So what I do in this class is I try to design this session today so I have 60 minutes worth of really good stuff that you're going to love. And then I teach you for 50 minutes. Because I don't want you to finish the class. If you've ever been to a class and you're like, oh, that was just lousy. So my goal is when we finish the class, you're like, oh, we're done. If you're packing up 10 minutes beforehand, I've screwed up, right? Because I want you to want more. Right? And finally, consider everything in the product chain that could possibly impact the customer and make sure that the customer is going to be happy with the end result. Okay? So let's talk about a client versus a customer. Those are two different things. 3 points on a customer. The customer is always right. You go to McDonald's and you say, I want more special sauce on my Big Mac. You're right. And they need to put more sauce on your Big Mac, or you might go buy a Whopper next time. Right? You're right. You didn't fill my cup full enough with Coke. I'm so sorry. Let me put some more in it. The customer should get what they want. The customer should get what they want. When you go buy a phone, you ought to get one that lasts battery all day. And a customer inspects and evaluates what they get. If they don't get what they want, they're going to complain or they're going to go somewhere else. A client is different than a customer. A client does not know what they want or need. So when AU had this COVID crisis, and we need something to clean the rooms here, we didn't know what we needed. We don't know what chemicals ought to be in that jar. The client doesn't know what they want or need. The client depends on the service provider to provide them what they need. So I've got to trust that the people who are providing the chemical for that sprayer make it right and give it to me every time. I'm not going to inspect it. I'm going to use it. And if it doesn't have enough alcohol or whatever it has in it, then we're all in trouble. Because point 3, the client trusts the provider. Now, given the difference here between a client and a customer, are you guys in this class a client or a customer? Now, when you were a senior in high school, were you a client or a customer? You were a customer, right? Because you're coming to AU, you're looking at AU, and you're trying to decide, do I want big or small? Do I want Christian or non-Christian? Right? And whatever you decide, you're right. Because you're deciding for you. And you should get what you want. So if you go, let's say you have chosen to go to Clemson this year, right? And you go to Clemson and they're online. Every class. It's online. Talked to a guy the other day, he's taking engineering. His engineering professor doesn't know how to use Canvas. And so he emails him assignments. And he doesn't know how to Zoom. So he's sending him, he'll read the textbook and take a test and learn engineering. Pretty tough. And so you inspect what you're doing at Clemson and you say, I don't want to be online. I want to go face to face, right? But once you're here, you're not client, you're not customers anymore. You're stuck, right? At least for a semester. If you're going to get any credit for the semester, you're stuck. So, do you know what I need to teach you in this class? Marketing. One word, maybe, right? I'm going to learn marketing stuff. But what about marketing do I teach you? So, you depend on me. Isn't that a joke? You depend on me to provide you what you need. And you trust me for, well, 2 out of 3 isn't bad, right? So you are dependent upon me and you don't know what you should learn, but maybe you don't trust me. 2 out of 3, I'll take it. So when we look at what the customer wants, oops, back here. Does the offer equal what they give you to sign? And is that what's billed? So last month, I go to Charter because I had a bad modem for my internet. So I took the modem back, said I need a new modem. And the representative there said, hey, you know what? If you add telephone service, we'll cut your bill $10 a month. I said, I'm not going to use the telephone service. But you tell me if I sign up for it, even if I don't use it, my bill goes from $65 to $55. And he said, yep. I said, hey, for 120 bucks a year, sure, sign me up. And then I got my bill. And I'm paying $10 more dollars a month. He lied to me. Lied to me. And I am ticked, right? So I'm calling today to tell them, number one, stop this telephone service, and number two, refund me back the money that I paid last month, right? So what happens if we got problems here? It creates unnecessary churn. What's churn? Yeah, the customer goes from one provider to another provider, switches from using Crest to using Colgate. Churn. Number two, you have a failure to satisfy the customer. And that creates a competitive vulnerability. So maybe they don't churn, but maybe they'd like to. And they're not happy with you. And if somebody comes along and offers them a better deal, they jump on it, they're not loyal to you. And number three, it increases credits and adjustments that affect revenue. So they charged me that extra 10 bucks, right? And I didn't notice it for 2 months. So you know what happened? The quarter passed. They announced to Wall Street that they have an extra customer and they made an extra $20. And now I'm going to go tell them, give me that money back. So if you have a lot of that, and of course, this guy over at who gave me the new modem is probably lying to everybody. He probably gets a $10 bonus for everybody he signs up for telephone. So if last month he got 15 people to sign up, he gets 150 bucks. So if he lies to 15 people, he gets $150 personally. He feels good because he got more money. And they reported more money to Wall Street. And then they have to come back the next month or 2 months later and tell Wall Street, well, we really didn't make that money. So we have bad revenue quality. So I suggest that the marketing folks need to work with everybody in the company, not just my marketing working on the product, with my marketing work with communicating to the customer, but I've got to calibrate with engineering and operations and customer service. I'll give you an example. When I was vice president of marketing, I needed to know what was going on with all of my marketing efforts, right? So if a letter is sent out to somebody in Wisconsin, to say 200,000 people in Wisconsin, how do I know that it was like it wanted to be? So what I did is I put myself on the seed list, which means I got every single piece of mail that CenturyLink sent to customers, right? So I had to get a bigger mailbox, literally. The stuff wouldn't fit in my mailbox. And my wife was really nice to me. She just made a pile for me. So I went through everything. I remember one time I picked up this envelope for trying to sell our long distance service. I opened it up, pulled out the letter, looked at the letter, everything looked good, crisp and clean. I put it back up, and then I looked and I had a black spot on my pants. And I looked at my fingers and there was ink on my fingers. They had put the wrong ink on the wrong kind of paper. And so it was like a whiteboard. Now, we sent out 300,000 of those letters. So what was I going to get the next day? Complaints, right? So I called Phyllis, our vice president of customer service, told her what happened. We came up with a script. The next morning, 8 o'clock, all the customer service people had a script. And when people called saying, I got ink on my pants, we're so sorry. The printer made this mistake. Here's what we're going to do to make it good for you. And we gave them the authority to dry clean people's clothes to make the customer happy, right? But if I hadn't been getting those letters, the next morning, customer service would have been getting complaints, and we would the customer service reps wouldn't know what to do. And the customers would be angry, right? But we solved a lot of the problems because I was aware and we talked to customer service, right? I have a relationship with all these people that we're dealing with, all of them, to provide the customer what the customer wants, because the customer is right, which says, no matter who you are, you need to focus on the customer. If you're in IT, your job, if all you do is report to your boss, and your boss is your only customer, you are going to do a lousy job. You have to think, how does this impact the customer? All right, let's change gears. So here's what we're going to do. All right, you guys in here, you guys who are online, do this individually, but I want you guys in here to get together in your teams. And I want you to come up with a list of 50 attributes that are in Coca-Cola that are not in Pepsi. So for example, Coca-Cola has more carbonation than Pepsi does. So that would go on your list. I gave you the first one, right? So we're going to take a few minutes here, and your team has to come up with 50. So you got to go fast, okay? Get in your teams. Yeah, stay a little distant. You know, we got to do the COVID thing. Come on, hurry, hurry. They need another. The project group. Yeah. We need 6 people in a room. Oh, okay. There was somebody else standing around. All right, you should have 5. Did you get that Coke has less sugar than Pepsi? I give you 2 of the 5. Come on, hurry, hurry, hurry. Make a list, write it down.
Logo, slogan, posting, container, advertisement, calories. Yeah. Okay.
So you guys out there online, get out a piece of paper and write as many attributes that Coke has that Pepsi doesn't have as you can. Okay, you should have 10. Did you get the Coke's red and Pepsi's blue?
Yeah, I already said different varieties, but might as well put. Right, I mean, we gotta get 50.
All right, your team should have 20 written down. Should have 20. Did you get that Coke owns Santa Claus and the polar bears?
Those sponsors, other most known sponsorships include Americana, iTunes, Best Network, NASCAR.
Oh, wait. Yes.
All right, you should have 30. Did you get Coke has the world of Coke?
Yes.
Yes.
There you go, good. Keep going.
When they were founded, founders. Already put more sugar on.
Pepsi's characterized by citrusy. Coke is more raisin.
Sponsors like celebrity sponsors.
Pepsi's had trouble with their advertising. They're both sold. Coke is health food.
That's not good. Probably different. Maybe.
All right, you should have 40. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Come on. Done it.
Okay.
All right, count them up. Let's see how many each group got. See which group got the most.
The fast 10 minutes. All right, 20. We got 20.
Yeah, 20 over here. I gave you 6 of them.
Okay, so you got
So you got 14. Oh my. So much for 50. How many did you guys get? 26. How about you all? 50, right?
18.
8. Man. All right, second part of the assignment. Take one attribute from your list and figure out how you're going to market the product, how you market Coke based on that attribute. So for example, mine is carbonation, right? So you can see 2 guys in a commercial walking out of a diner, Bubba and Thumper, right? They both walk over to their trucks and get in their trucks, and Bubba, he puts the key in, he turns the key, and it goes rrr, rrr, rrr. Thumper looks over at him, sticks in his key, turns the key, and he goes rrr, rrr, rrr. So Bubba, he pops the trunk. He takes his Coca-Cola and he pours it on the battery. He slams the hood down, gets back in his truck, and goes, vroom, and drives off. Thumper looks at that. He pulls the hood, opens the trunk, goes over, takes his Pepsi, pours it on the battery, slams down the trunk, gets back in his car, and it goes, because Coke has more carbonation in it. It literally eats battery acid. Now, think what it does to your stomach. But, all right, so you think, now hold it, you can't really advertise bubbles. Yeah? Here's Coca-Cola. This is their poster, right? Magazine ad. Try not to hear this, and here's their commercial.
Let's go, Mike 57, down, Mike 57, 390, ring 90's hot.
Open the bottle and bubbles would come out, and then they cartoonize the bubble, and somebody jumps inside a bubble and floats over New York City, and they're advertising carbonation. So pick one attribute, and we're going to let your group tell us how you're going to advertise Coke.
Just a dream. How you meet your girlfriend, or how you meet especially college, or even if it's over there. Now you're right. Yeah, the share of Coke. That's the share of Coke. That one could be cool. Obviously, what are those tastes? It's like
All right, one more minute.
So like, your battle, a girl walks in there, she's like, yeah, like something like that, exactly. Exactly, that's what I'm saying, like a winter sponsor. So you bring the middle order, and then what you do, you could read it. They're going to be going in, they have a scheme.
All right, let's see what you guys got. How about back here? What's your all's attribute? What's your all's attribute?
We're doing like healthier and the Coke figure one.
So Coke is healthier,
Yeah.
and how are you going to advertise that?
Okay, so you're sitting on the couch, and this commercial comes up. And we're talking. So this chick just got out of yoga class. She's on her way, and she's like, "Man, I could really use a soda right now." So she goes to the DC, and she's looking at all of her options and all the little cases and stuff. I just don't really want it. Like, Dr. Pepper, like, really feel great. Then she goes over to the other one and she's like, Coke Zero. And she's like, man, 0 calories? Wow, this is nice.
Coca-Cola, the healthy option. All right, how about you guys over here?
So we found out that Coke is the official sponsor of American Idol.
Okay.
So we used that using a past winner, the winner of whatever year, to shoot a commercial where they're sitting in the waiting room. And all these terrible acts keep going up. And then our winner from the last year, she drinks her Coke and goes in and nails the audition. And that's how we say that Coke is better.
So if you want to be a good singer, douse yourself with Coke first.
You drink Coke if you want to sing one.
Got it. All right, how about you guys?
So we want to emphasize like the smoothness of Coke versus Pepsi. So we want to like take someone who is like sick, maybe with like Corona or something. Or I don't even know if that like has a
Hey, I can see Donald Trump going for this one.
or someone who's a sore throat and like drinking Coke to make it better, and then like when they drink Pepsi, it just got worse.
Drink it, go cure COVID. I like it. I like it. I can do that. In fact, let me save myself from you guys. All right. So this is really what we do in the real world. So even at seminary for people. So I had a friend, Brad, who went to Dallas Seminary, and his professor, Howard Hendricks, at the end of class gave one verse and said, the assignment for next week is you come back with 200 applications of this verse. Bring it into the paper. Brad told me, Joe, I went home, I opened my Bible to that verse, and over on the margin, I made a note from when my pastor had preached on that. And every time I read it, this means that. And suddenly he had to come up with 200 different applications of the verse. So he, all week long, that's all I could think about was that verse, trying to come up with different applications that he went through doing everything he did during the week. He got his 200. He turns it in. He was really proud of himself. And Hendricks says, great, next week, 200 more. Comes back the next week with his new 200. And Hendricks said, 200 more next week. Comes back the next week, 200 more next week. 800 applications of one verse. And Brad said, I've never read the Bible the same again. Because I always used to say, okay, this means that, and this means that, and this means that. But now when I read my Bible, I think of, I read a verse and it's how does that affect me treating my dog? And how does that relate to my how my boss treats me? And he's thinking about it in a whole new way, right? So, anybody know what this is? This is the United States of America. Come on! You guys need to take art appreciation. I am an artiste, and this is abstract art. This is America. So, when I went to work for Bell South, I had a product, Frame Relay. And we, in our frame relay for Bell South, we could only provide cities with frame relay, right? And my salespeople weren't selling it. And they said, Joe, companies want interstate frame relay. So they buy from AT&T and MCI. Because if you're Home Depot down here in Miami, or down here in Miami, and somebody swipes their credit card, they have to send that data to Atlanta. And then Atlanta authorizes it and sends it back. And all your frame relay does is do the metro area of Dade County. And so the customers don't want it. So I did, for my frame relay product, what you just did for Coca-Cola. I sat down with Pad and I listed every attribute of my product that wasn't in AT&T's, right? And then I looked at our network. Now, AT&T 2 months earlier had an outage, and it was 2 days. And Home Depot was without credit card violations for 2 days, and they went crazy. And so I looked at our network, and AT&T had a bug in their system in Atlanta, and it spread everywhere in the United States because it was a cloud. Well, my clouds were cities. So I came up with the term cloud isolation. We isolate your data. And then I came up with no single point of failure. Because if anywhere in AT&T's network they had a failure in their computer network, the whole nation would down. For me, if I had a problem in Miami, Atlanta's still up. So, and then my product was a third of the price of AT&T's. And so I I went around the country to all my salespeople and explained all these benefits to them and said, what you do is you get Home Depot to interconnect all the Home Depots in Dade County. And then they buy one pipe through AT&T to Atlanta. And they reduce their cost of the network by 2/3. And we won at Home Depot, right? So we had to look at it in a different perspective. Now, my hero for product managers is the product manager for Arm & Hammer baking soda. Let me stop this. So turn this up. All right, so here we go. So what do you use baking soda for? Baking. What does it do in baking? It's kind of like yeast. It makes bread rise. Okay? So sales for Arm & Hammer baking soda for 50 years have been going like this. Why? Well, what happened was people stopped baking and they would get a cake mix. And a baking soda is in the cake mix, right? So they're selling Arm & Hammer baking soda by the truckload, by the ton to Pillsbury, instead of charging $2.50 for 4 ounces, right? So they pay $2.50 for a half ton because they're buying in bulk. So it's killing the revenues of Arm & Hammer baking soda. And so he's, here's an interesting fact you might be interested in. When they started making cake mixes, women would not buy them because they felt like they weren't baking. So what Pillsbury did is it took out the powdered eggs and it took out the powdered milk. And so you had to physically crack an egg and put it in, and you had to pour milk in and then mix it, and women felt like, I'm baking. And they bought them like mad. Sometimes it's all up here. So Arm & Hammer baking soda is doing bad. So this guy is getting his resume together to go find another job because he's, this is a failure, right? So he goes home for Thanksgiving and he goes over to his grandmother's house. And she says, honey, would you get some biscuits out of the freezer and put them in the oven for me? And he says, sure, Grandma, because his grandma did what mine did. She baked her biscuits beforehand, put them in the freezer and froze them. And then when you're ready for them, you chunk them in the oven, and 2 minutes later, they're warm instead of 20 minutes later, right? So it's really fast. And so he puts it in there, and when he opens the refrigerator, the freezer, inside the freezer is a box of Arm & Hammer baking soda. And he says, Grandma, I'm the product manager for Arm & Hammer baking soda. You don't need to put it in your freezer. You can put it in your cupboard. And she says, I know. It just smells better. And he starts thinking about the chemical composition of Arm & Hammer baking soda. And 6 months later, there's a commercial on television. I remember seeing it. It was the worst commercial I'd ever seen. Person opens the freezer and they had these blue lines. They're about this thick, and these blue lines, formed a wave and went up somebody's nose. And then they put a box of Arm & Hammer baking soda in there, and from the fish that was in there, the waves went into the box of Arm & Hammer baking soda. Sales of Arm & Hammer baking soda for the first time in 50 years. So 6 months later, he comes with a new commercial. Remember that box of Arm & Hammer baking soda in your freezer? It's time to replace it. Sales jump again. People who hadn't been doing it started doing it. People who did it threw it away and put another one in. 6 months later, remember that box of Arm & Hammer baking soda in your freezer? Time to replace it. Oh, it works in your refrigerator too. Sales skyrocket. 6 months later, they changed the box. And now the box has this little lid that you pull up, and then you strip off this piece of plastic, and it's got a net so that the Arm & Hammer baking soda won't spill all over the place in the freezer instead of cutting the top off. Sales skyrocket. Then this guy, he thinks, when I was a kid, and I did this when I was a kid, you would take Arm & Hammer baking soda, you put it in your palm, and you take some salt and put it in there, and put a little water in it and mix it around, and you brush your teeth with it. It was the best kind of toothpaste there was. Really ripped your gums apart, but really shined up your teeth, right? And so he's like, Arm & Hammer baking soda toothpaste. Sales went up. Thought I was going to have a fortune. Almost. So this guy revolutionized Arm & Hammer baking soda by thinking, what can we do? How can we be creative about it? And so now today it's in deodorant, it's in laundry detergent. I mean, it's in dryer, dryer sheets to soften clothes. I mean, they put it in anything. Just eat it. Just buy it, right? We don't care. In fact, he comes up with this commercial, and it was, remember that Arm & Hammer baking soda in your refrigerator and your freezer? It's time to change it. Oh, no. Don't throw it in the trash can. Pour it down the sink. Makes it smell better. People went out and bought Arm & Hammer baking soda and poured it down the sink. And some people went out and bought it to pour it down the toilet, and it doesn't help that. So, creative. You guys have a great day.